Keep Spelling TV. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. Today we all listen to the awards and of the prisons and things in that nature, the things that he does as far as who he are as a person. Okay, and he's also letting them know the things that they want out of them and just people just in general that who come into the prisons walls. Okay, they're going to slave you. Okay, they're going to slave you. That's their job, is to slave you. The white man is going to slave you. Mm. That's the only thing that he know how to do. That's the only thing that the white man know how to do is to slave people. Okay, whether you're white, black, Mexican, Hispanic, whatever race you are, they're going to slave you. They don't care. If you're doing bad stuff out here, you're killing people, you're doing bad things, they're going to slave you. But we're gonna get into it.
in Daytona Beach for 5 years, returned on a lateral to Central Florida Reception Center, and got promoted to a warden at Hernando Correctional Center, Correctional Institution in Brooksville for women. And then shortly, about a year and a half, got promoted to headquarters to the Department of Corrections headquarters as
Is the Julio Foolio trial of the killers. That's this is what's going on.
Director of Staff Development. And actually, going back, I was a corrections officer at Lake Correctional Institution as my first assignment in Orlando in '87, and then moved on to run jails for the next 20 years.
Okay. And what type of education do you have to get into that kind of career?
To get in that profession, to be a corrections officer, of course, you have to have a high school diploma. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology from Iona University, as well as have my certification as a public manager to the Florida Atlantic University Master's Program, have my master's in public administration through Florida Atlantic University, and also have my credentials as a certified jail manager through the American Jail Association's Professional Commission, as well as my corrections executive certification through the American Correctional Agency through Washington Professional Certification Commission as well.
How long have you been, even up till now, working in this field?
Over 41 years, over 4 decades.
And I know you discussed you're currently working a capacity in a facility in Texas, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
I supervise over a jail population of 4,000 inmates and about 1,100 employees. It's the 5th largest jail in Texas.
When was the last time that you worked in corrections in Florida?
Okay, last time I worked in corrections in Florida was 2010 when I was separating myself from retiring in 2010.
That didn't work out too well. I see you're still here, right?
Now, 25 years, and then 6 months later went back into the business.
From the time working in the Florida Department of Corrections specifically, did you become familiar in those capacities that you described to us with their department policies and procedures?
Yes, as a classification supervisor, particularly at the Central Florida Reception Center, which is Central Florida's hub, receiving almost 600 to 900 inmates a week from county jails and processing them out throughout the prison system, as well as my role as an assistant warden for 7 years and my wardenship and directorship. Very familiar. We all had to be familiar with warden assignments because we got moved when the agency needed you to be moved.
And Department of Corrections, that's a state-run program, right?
Correct. This is the 3rd largest state prison system in existence.
So those DOC procedures would be pretty consistent from facility to facility?
Correct. They're pretty consistent. Maybe some SOPs might change a little bit on the design and the age of the prison, but they all pretty much operate the same.
And you indicated one of them, correct me if I'm wrong, was the warden of Hernando Correctional Institution, and was that with youthful and adult women?
Yes, I had a population of 350 youthful offenders from the age of 15 to 21, as well as the adult women population as well.
Why is there a separate prison for youthful offenders?
every Sumter Correction Institution is the one for men. In many cases, we have to sort of segregate the youthful offender population with the adults, particularly in that facility, those individuals that were in the youthful offender program. There's certain expectations. We have to provide them particular education programs when we have them necessary, as well as, keeping in standard for safety purposes. We want to keep them separated because of their age and often because of their behavior. Between the age of 14 and 26, the behavior is sort of different in a prison setting compared to the adults.
What the department considered a youthful offender?
Yes, in the industry, that population, even though they are sentenced to an adult prison, I'm not a professional psychiatrist, but knowing the business, that's a very rambunctious. They're at a point in their life where they're still maturing. We tend to see that population have more disciplinary reports, more egregious behavior, more fighting that you have to deal with in that population versus the adult, that they're more settled and mature once they settle in.
And you also, as part of your career, you worked with as a juvenile case manager up in New York at some point, right?
Correct. I did 2 years with 2 contracts, one with Hawthorne Seed Knolls, which was mental health juveniles, as well as the other ones with juvenile group home children, my first employment in social services. Yes.
Based on your past work and experiences, I think I already asked you, you're familiar with the policies and procedures of both jails and prisons, specifically in Florida?
Yes.
And how, since it has been some time since you physically how do you keep up to be able to educate us on the policies and procedures of the Department of Corrections?
Well, it's been a while, but actually, always a corrections officer at heart. In my current assignment, I walk the units and the compound on a weekly basis. Also, keeping up with the Department of Corrections particularly, still have a lot of friends and family members who work in the agency, so keep up with that in that way, but also keep up with their annual reports, as well as some of the changes that the agency goes through, as I'm familiar with a lot of the current leadership in different capacities, because I came up with them, but keep up abreast with all the current changes going on that they have to publish as well in the agency website.
Okay, so in a little bit, I'm going to ask you about some specifics regarding life without parole and death row inmates in Florida. So are you able to give the jury that information based on what you've just described as far as how you keep up with those policies and procedures?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And before we get to that, so you're working now, other than what you've described in Texas, but you're testifying here today. Is that more in a consultant capacity?
Yes, it is.
What does that mean?
Consultant means not in my work capacity is my role now, take actual time off with consulting. We tend to always do this kind of work for take on cases, either resentencing cases, penalty phase cases, even some civil cases where there's some wrongful death involved, either for the agency's defense or for the actual plaintiff as well.
And I assume you're not doing that work for free. Can you tell us how much you charge per hour?
No, my fees are $200 an hour to interview, review records, as well as $225 an hour to testify, and $110 to travel time as well.
Okay. And that all gets approved when we get you onto a case?
Correct. Everyone that I work with, regardless if it's private or government, there's an agreement and that the hours are authorized in advance.
And have you previously testified in court before in that capacity?
Yes, I have.
And do you know approximately how many times?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, if I could ask just what capacity, because we covered a lot of
Sorry.
ground.
As a consultant.
As a consultant, over 55, 60 cases.
And was that in state and federal court?
State and federal, as well as county as well.
Okay. And was that just in Florida or anywhere else?
No, I've done work in South Carolina, the state of Georgia, Texas, Florida, of course, even though some work in Louisiana as well.
And have you always been allowed by those courts to give an expert opinion in the area of corrections policy, practices, and conditions?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that the court allow Mr. Bonasco to give his opinion testimony in the areas of corrections policy, practices, and conditions.
Mr. Fournier, witness this time.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have you ever consulted on cases for the prosecution or state attorney's office?
No.
Okay, now I'm going to get into some specifics. We talked about the difference between a life without parole sentence and what a death row inmate. Let's start with life without parole. Throughout your lengthy career in corrections, have you become familiar with how inmates serving a life without parole sentence are housed in the Department of Corrections?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and can you tell us physically how they are housed?
Well, all my assignments in the Florida prison system were all at lifer facilities, so I'm very familiar with that layout. What happens is an individual who is sentenced to the Department of Corrections, particularly like in this case with Ms. Garthright, he will go through a reception center process. He will be given an inmate number. That inmate number will remain with him for the remainder of his sentence while in the prison system. They will then be transferred after 6 to 12 weeks, in which they go through a reception process. They have to see all components, medical, mental health, social services, and classification, and we assess their custody level, and then we will assign them to vacant beds throughout the prison system. When that individual were to be received at a facility, let's say Tomoka Correctional Institution, which is a lifer facility, holds all custody levels to close, that individual will be classified and assessed based on their skill set, their behavior, their prior behavior, whether it's in the county jail or in another system, in another agency, and then determine their housing assignment, determine their job assignment, in which every inmate that is serving a term of life will always have to be assigned a job assignment. So what that means is every inmate serving a life sentence is required to work up to 60 hours a week, whether it's cooking meals, preparing laundry, pushing about 100 lawnmowers, gasless of course, keeping up with the day-to-day maintenance of that prison. That is a requirement, as well as following all the other rules and regulations as required by the agency.
So part of the classification, and I know probably just out of habit,
Well, they're gonna have them boys working like, whew, like slaves, okay? They won't. He did say. Now I don't know. He said no. He haven't said it in this particular one right here just yet. But they want the equity out of them. He said they young, they healthy. You know, they need every work equity out of them. Okay, they want everything up out of them before they die. They young, they healthy. They ain't got no type of health issues. You know, they need to work out on. Uh, they need the work out of them other than them giving them the death penalty. You know what I'm saying? Um, they have life already. They could never see daylight again as far as outside of this world. The pen world, that's the only thing they're gonna see is the pen world in the fields when they go out and and chop their food, get their food up and things of that nature. But yeah, let's get back into it.
you said you obviously aren't
Yeah,
working there
right,
anymore, but
department.
the department will find a facility where Mr. Gathright would be the most useful
Yes,
and
yes.
fit in the best?
Yes.
And also they have programs and things you mentioned, right?
Yes, they have programs.
Can you explain what a typical day in the life of an inmate serving life without parole would look like, since they are required to work? What else does a day look like?
A typical life for an individual inmate serving in the Department of Corrections is they're woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We do a secure account. At that time, we will escort them to their appropriate chow hall, which is where they eat their meal. They have up to 10 minutes to sit and eat their meal. They will return back to their housing unit, in which we will conduct another count, and then we will allow them to go to the day-to-day operations. So inmates have work assignments. They are to report to their work assignments as scheduled. If they have call-outs for medical, classification, case management, they are to be accounted for, and we will go through the same process 3 times a day. So closer to the noon meal, around 11 o'clock, everyone will fall into their assignment. Those who are working, regardless of where you're at, we will do a count. We will go through the lunch meal, and then we'll repeat it again around 4:30 approximately in the evening, so we can make sure everyone's accounted for. then they return back to their housing unit, and after dark, they are all secured in secured housing, and no inmates are allowed to be out of those buildings unless there's an emergency with proper security, shackles, and handcuffs to whatever assignment they have to go. Otherwise, they remain in those housing units till the next day, in which it is repeated again.
So they're not just roaming around the prison all day looking for
Absolutely
things
not.
to do?
They're told when to do, what to do, when to do it.
I didn't hear you mention a shower. Do they get to shower?
They get to shower. We are required by accreditation standards to give them a minimum of 3 showers a week, but because those individuals are in an environment where they don't have their own showers, it's based on who the population is, usually about 250 inmates for like 7 to 10 showers. So they're sharing spaces.
And I don't know if you might have mentioned this, but the housing itself, are they in a dorm style, or what does their personal housing look like?
Their
For
personal
one?
housing is, Department of Corrections, we know it as HO5 and HO4 housing. That's the housing assignment we give individuals who are serving a life sentence. And HO5 is an individual cell that's designed with 2 men in it. That's more the old prison style. Like I worked at Tomoka Corrections in Polk, old prisons because of the design at the time. Because we've had individuals serving life, we also code them, the Department of Corrections codes them as HO4. HO4 is the same type of secure housing, but these individuals are more in a communal environment, almost like a military style. The integrity of the building is still designed to hold lifers, but because a lot of the old prisons, the footprint is very antiquated and very manpower intensive, we have other type of industry standard housing, but they are in an HO4 status.
If someone is sentenced to life without parole, meaning they're not getting out, is there any incentive for them to follow the rules while they're in prison?
Well, every inmate in the Department of Corrections is required to work. And if they do not show up to work, even those who are medically indigent, they're required to work. They will face administrative outcomes, basically receive a disciplinary report for refusing to work, and if that continues to escalate, we move them into another level of status based on the classification. And
That is true what he are saying. They don't play no games. You're gonna work or you're going to the hole. You're gonna abide by the rules or else.
their negative adjustment in the prison setting.
And what would be their incentives to follow the rules other than just where they're housed? Do they get any benefit for following the rules?
They would have their privileges not revoked. Privileges such as family visits, commissary, inmate tablets, access to the TV, even access to programs. Those are the privileges in which they have to follow the rules in order to keep them.
And so you indicated that they are required.
He like, man, these are a lot of rules that I just didn't have to do. It's coming in here, uh, doing that murder, and it wasn't even worth it. It was not worth it. It was not worth it, and they knew it wasn't. Now they got now they just killed their own self. They killed their own self by in the system all their life. 20 years old. Lord Jesus, that's a lot of your life is gone to waste. In a prison cell with nothing but grown men that's got life like you, and some that don't got half of the sentence that you have, and you got some that have a low sentence. But they keep coming back all the time. The ones that do get out, that they charge really not that serious like this right here. A lot of them get out and a lot of them don't. And you got some of them that have a charge like he got, have killed somebody, but they don't have life, but they almost have life. But they tell some people that I don't have life, but you've been in there for so many years and years now, and they keep on declining your what they call it, the warden keep on declining your appeal. So I don't know.
those inmates will be required to work 60 hours a week, and even if they're disabled. Is it safe to say that prison can be made even more comfortable for a person, or uncomfortable, sorry, if they refuse to work or they're not following?
They said they don't even care if you disabled, you still gonna work 60 hours. Oh my goodness. That's not a place that nobody wants to go. Y'all better tell y'all kids, y'all better talk to y'all kids and do the most. This is not a place for nobody. Not even jail is not a place for nobody. It's horrible too. It's horrible too.
The rules?
Yes, in the system, it's designed, if they continue to refuse to show up to work or their assigned area, they will get disciplinary reports. As they continue to escalate those disciplinary reports, then they will be considered for close management. And what close management status is, those individual inmates in the prison system that are not following the rules, they become a security concern, not only for the other inmates, but the day-to-day operations, at which time the institutional classification team will review them, place them on a docket, as they say, to be reviewed by central office, and move to a facility such as Santa Rosa Correctional Institution, Martin Correctional Institution, Columbia, to name a few, in which they house close management 1, 2, and 3 statuses. These individuals, for the most part, are locked in a single cell by themselves. They don't have any privileges, just to see medical every day, as well as their meals, and not even but twice a week get uniform and allowed out of their cell 3 times a week. They will remain in that status till they start complying with the rules and regulations, in which they will eventually, hopefully, move out of that status if they start conforming to the rules.
And you gave some examples earlier. I just wanted to follow up some of the things that inmates do in the way of work at the prison. You included cooking, is that right?
Yes, we have to prepare 3 meals, as well as even dietary meals for the inmate population. So we use a lot of the inmate labor to do all the meal preparation, as well as keeping up with sanitary requirements. We have to launder all the food as well. We have also inmates, the department has to assign inmates who have skills in maintenance, because the Department of Corrections utilizes 80% of the inmate labor to keep up with the aging.
You scratching your ways, but somebody gonna be rubbing them ways, baby, in that prison. You gonna be somebody's woman. Somebody's woman with some. You gonna have some days. They gonna make you put on some days to do. Make you put on some days to do, boy.
Facilities that the prison system has. That's something on a national level.
Mhm.
We put them to work. They do not have any kind of financial compensation they're required to. We also keep up the grounds, as well as utilize them in different capacities. Those who might have a high school diploma might be part of the orientation for the new inmates coming into the prison system, sort of like a peer-to-peer, helping those, particularly those coming in with a term of years, to hopefully take advantage of the programs and not return back to the prison system.
And you mentioned yard work. Do they do painting, electrical work, things like that based on their skill set?
They do plumbing, painting, electrical. Keep in mind, they're under supervision of what we know as a vocational instructor, so they're not freely having any access to tools. They're always supervised. Because of a prison design, things do break down at night, so sometimes, depending on the skill set, staff is dispatched, or even the corrections officers have to supervise them to keep up with these repairs. Wastewater treatment programs, some of the prisons in the Department of Corrections, I know personally, have been assigned to places where we don't have direct water access, so we have our own water and treatment programs, so we have to keep up with that as well.
You indicated that the inmates themselves don't make any money or commissary off of that work, is that right?
No.
Would you say that they save the Department of Corrections in the state of Florida money?
Yes, they do.
Because you indicated, I think, 80% of the work done is done by inmates?
Yes, I mean, keeping in mind, we're talking almost 80 prisons throughout the state of Florida and the aging buildings that they have. If it was not for the inmate labor, it would be quite challenging and financially a challenge to the agency to keep up with all the repairs.
Do they do anything that that they can contribute outside the prison? Is there any work? I know, and this may be like way old school, we'd see inmates making like license plates. They probably don't do that anymore, but are they doing?
This child right here, I feel so bad, but he's gonna be somebody's woman if he don't give his life to God. He's gonna be somebody's woman because he's not gonna be able to feel no type of booty no more. Like as far as woman. Now he's always open to see a man's butt, okay? He's always open. So he gonna see a lot of that. Once he get in there, oh yeah, you're gonna see a lot of that. Um and there's a lot of men be looking at other men's butt and between their legs too. Yeah, man, man. I'm not saying everybody in prison is like that, but most of Georgia people is like that when they got life or they ain't got nothing else, um, to feel on. Okay, he gonna make somebody. He gonna make you and somebody else the woman. He gonna make you come up out of them pants. Okay, if you don't got God and God on your side, if you got God on your side, you can make it. You can make it. You won't come out of your drawers. You won't come out of them pants, them jailhouse pants. But God got to be in it for you to be able to hold yourself through something like this. God got to be in it. Because if God ain't in it, and then you start doing everything what the other prisoners doing and all that, they gonna get you. They gonna get you. So I say stay out of everything that what people doing and any type of he say she say stuff and all of that and kind of stick to yourself or stick to somebody like your kind or some kind of like that and got a life like you and on the same on some type of path, a good path that you said that you on right now. That's who you need to be having your life around people like that because some people do change their life in there, It's sometimes it takes some people just to go there for them to change their lives. And it do change a lot of people's lives and a lot of people just it does not change. They come to go back, 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 and they just feel like they stay home. Jail and prison is their home. So it's crazy.
Doing anything for people outside of the prison?
And actually, they still do license plates.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. In my years and still to this day, we have different events. So actually, we use inmate laborers who might have some carpentry skills. They actually do a big thing every year in different agencies throughout the United States for Toys for Tots. We also use them to create the inmate uniforms, their inmate boots. We keep up also refurbishing of vehicles. When I worked at the women's facility, the women there did the eye contacts and the dentures for the prison system. So we utilize them to work through our partnership through PRIDE, the Prison Rehabilitative and Industrial Enterprise company that is a partnership. We put them to work with this particular partner to keep us sustained and also cost saving. They also do the furniture at Polk Correctional Institution. For those agencies that want to buy furniture, there's a furniture factory there as well.
And PRIDE, I think you said, is it Prison Rehabilitative Industrial Diversified Enterprise?
Yes,
That's a mouthful, but okay.
it's a lot.
So an inmate sentenced to life without parole, would you agree is a resource for inside the prison as well as society in some cases?
Yes.
What about, you talked about visitation and some incentives for following the rules. What are inmates in prison allowed to communicate with people on the outside, and if so, how?
Yes, they are allowed. There's the new industry standard. Typically, they can call on the phones, in which they can call out, but also we have tablets. It's the new industry standard. Inmates are assigned a tablet in which they can either do video visitation in some facilities and even text in a secure server to communicate with their family members as well.
And I assume that's all monitored by the department.
Completely, yes.
And is it free to the inmate?
No,
The tablet's free, but the communications aren't, is that right?
correct. There's a fee for the text as well as any kind of communication with outside folks.
Now I want to move on to talk to you a little bit about if someone's serving, or they're sentenced to death and they become a death row inmate in Florida, how is an inmate on death row housed physically?
Physically, when you're housed in a death row environment, particularly at Union CI, go there often, they're housed in a 6x9 cell, single-person housing with a mattress, their assigned TV, stainless steel sink and toilet, as well as our provided services. They also, 3 years ago, changed the process in which now inmates on death row also are allowed and issued a tablet, as well as they're allowed a lot more time out of their cells as historically, and also have family visits. Their food is delivered to them, and their uniforms are delivered to them, but they're not required to work.
Let me just take those a little bit one at a time. So you said the TV, do they have their own TV?
Yes.
What about the inmates that are serving life without parole? Do they get their own TV?
No, each side of the dorm or each pod or quad is, depending what you call it, the department has to share a TV in that environment. So there's often fights and stuff, but they basically, amongst the prison population, have to determine what channel of the limited channels they can see.
But somebody that's on death row will have their own TV?
Yes.
And do they go to the chow hall to eat, or you said they get the food delivered to them?
Their 3 meals are delivered to them on the row.
Do they do their own laundry?
No.
So somebody else, the inmates that are working, do their laundry and bring it to them?
The inmate laundry is done by the inmate laundry trustees, as we often call them, and they will be delivered on a weekly schedule, exchange their uniforms.
And I believe you said that they are not required to work. Are they able to work?
They're able to work, but they're not required to work.
Do inmates sentenced to death contribute to the prison workforce in any way?
No.
So let me turn your attention to Mr. Gathright, Sean Gathright. Did you have an opportunity to meet with him?
Yes, I did.
Okay, do you recall when that was? And you can look at your notes if you need to.
March
refresh.
1st, 2026, at the Hillsborough County Jail.
And what was his demeanor, just generally, when you met with him?
Very pleasant, a young individual who was very articulate. We spoke, he was very respectful, had a good meeting with him.
And I assume you know that he's relatively young, at 20 years old right now.
Yes, he was booked at the age of 18, he's 20 now.
Did you learn through records provided by my office that Mr. Gathright was a high school graduate?
Yes,
Let me ask you a little bit about that. You mentioned earlier in your direct about somebody with an education. Certain inmates can maybe be kind of mentors or peer-to-peer, I think you described it, working with inmates that are serving a term of years, meaning they are getting out of prison. Do you think that Mr. Gathright would have that ability if he were serving a life without parole sentence?
he would have that ability. Of course, classification will have to look at his behavior, but the fact that he does have a high school diploma, that is one of the requirements to be an inmate student aid, because they're helping other individual prisoners obtain some kind of education programming, so they have to have a high school diploma. So he does have the credentials to be considered for that type of work assignment.
And as you said, when he gets to classification, somebody there will make all these determinations once they evaluate him physically, mentally, behaviorally, all of that stuff, right?
That's correct.
And based on your previous work as a classification officer, you feel comfortable saying that he could potentially be in that role?
Based on my experience and 4 decades, someone who I met and got the opportunity to speak to, and his current housing assignment, he has the potential to be considered for an assignment like that once in the prison system, but that would be over a period of time. Every inmate who's brought into a permanent prison will have to go through a period of observation, and usually they start on inside grounds for the first 3 to 6 months, and depending how well they do out in the heat and behave and follow the rules, then they can be considered for other positions which have more responsibilities or level of trust, but always supervised by staff.
And in the Department of Corrections, are there also what you consider faith and character facilities?
Yes, that is a new industry standard in the last 5 to 7 years. The Department of Corrections has quite a few of those that are spread out throughout the state.
And what do they offer to an inmate serving, well, I assume they don't include death row inmates, but if somebody's serving life without parole, what would that mean?
Anyone in the prison system up to life is eligible to be considered to go to that facility. For example, you have a Sumter Correctional Institution, Everglades Correctional Institution, but you have to show a 2-year record of following the rules, no disciplinary reports, no kind of security concerns, just to be considered. There's an application process in which they will have to go through, because these facilities, they're also known as incentivized prisons. So they only want those inmates who are respectful, following the rules, and not going to be a security concern.
And based on Mr. Gathwright's age, physical abilities, things like that, do you think that the prison would benefit from him in a work capacity if he were sentenced to life without parole?
I say yes, with my experience, not only just in classification, but as former warden and even as a jail administrator. He's someone that's young, he's healthy. In reality, we need that labor, we need that sweat equity, and we will put him out there to work, because we do have an aging prison population, jail administration. We have that, so we put these young.
Did y'all hear what that man said? He said he's young, he's healthy. They need that sweat out of him. Equity, equity. I mean, equity. They need that sweat equity out of him. They need it.
Individuals to work and get some sweat equity out of them, since they are young and actually can do the work.
And then we talk about life without parole and death row, but for our jurors' education, in Florida, what does a life sentence without parole mean?
A life sentence in the Florida Department of Corrections means from the minute they're brought in, they're assigned an inmate number. He will be assigned an inmate number, and when he dies and leaves in a body bag, he will still have that inmate number. An inmate serving life will never, ever get out. There is no parole in the state of Florida, and they're not ever allowed outside the razor wire and the fence of a secured facility.
So the only way that an inmate serving life without parole would leave is when they die.
See how he looked down. You see how he looked down like, man, what did I just do? What did I do? I know I did what I did, but man, I didn't know that this was gonna happen to me. I thought I'd probably be about 30, 40 years, 60 years, but all my life, I'm gonna be in there? It's crazy. But you gotta remember, y'all done took somebody else's life. They could never be here. They could never come back here. Their mama could never see them. They kin people, Julio, mama, daddy, family members and stuff, can't see him. They had to go to the grave site to see him. They can't see him like how his people can go to the prison and the jailhouse to see him and on calls and all that type of stuff. They Julio mama cannot do that. But this young man and the other young men's, they parents and kin people and kids, they got kids and stuff, they could maybe come and see them, you know? It's crazy.
Die by natural causes.
Objection, Your Honor, we're asking answer.
Sustain.
Your Honor, may I have a moment?
Yes.
I'll talk to the witness. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Mr. Harmon?
You're gonna leave it there at that. But this man said they young, they healthy, they need that sweat out of them. They need that sweat equity out of them. Because they young and they can do it. They don't have no health problems. And they're gonna work them and slay them like a dog. And he also said the only way he'll be able to only way he gonna be up out of there is when they put him in a body bag and he still gonna have that same number. When he in that body bag, he still gonna have that same number that he came in with. That's crazy work, and he looking down. He messed up in the head. He messed up. Now his whole mindset on how he think, it gotta change into the prison way, to the prison mindset, because he can't have his mind out here because he would never he can't never come out here anymore in the world with us. He's in the prison house. I'm talking about to the day he die. To the day he die, he is in a prison. He would never see he would never be able to you know, come back in the outside world with us. He would never be able to. And this is the type of stuff right here what makes you be like, ain't nothing worth even arguing with somebody over some, or arguing with somebody, or fighting somebody, or stabbing somebody, or shooting somebody because of this or that. It's not even worth it because you can lead up into this right here, life in prison. Who wants to be in there? Who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that unless you just don't care about your life. Unless you just don't care about living in life. You want to just live your life inside of the prison house. You got some people like that too. But only thing we can do for them, y'all, is pray for them. All of them. Foolio as well. Pray for Foolio mama, and his whole family. Just pray for everybody, okay? Even though these young men took Foolio life, they still need to be prayed for. If you got any type of heart, you will pray for them. Even though they did wrong, you still gotta pray for people. But we all make mistakes and we do things that we shouldn't do every day, all day. It's a lot of people's out here killing people and they can't find out who did what it is, who did what. And so, just for those, pray for these young men. I don't wish nothing bad on them. I don't wish nothing bad on them. I don't hate them. Only person can judge them is God in themselves. Okay? God. That's the only person can judge you is God. You can't even judge yourself basically. God the only one can judge you and could change your mindset and why you going through this process of what you're going through in this prison. And to keep all the other people's you're gonna go through some things. But if you put everything into God's hands and live up to what God say and things of that nature and change your life around, things can things can be better than what you think, you know. But it's easy for us to say, and it's hard for somebody to do when you in this position. So on that note, you guys, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. Make sure y'all like this video. Make sure y'all hype this video up. Um, Let me know in the comments how y'all feel about this, what y'all think about this, and I'll see you on the next video. All right.